Hello everyone, welcome to the Music Theory Technician, where learning the language gives you a competitive advantage. In the last lesson, we spoke about texture and how it described the way in which different musical sounds are combined. Now, in this lesson, we are going to speak about pitch. If I should press down the keys on either side of the piano, you'll notice that one sound is high and one sound is low. The difference between those two sounds is an extreme example of the difference in pitch. So to simply put, a pitch is how high or how low a sound is produced. Sound is created through vibrations. When an object vibrates, the vibrations are picked up by our ears and transmitted to our brains as sound. The rate or frequency at which the object vibrates determines the pitch that we hear. The faster the vibrations, the higher the pitch. With a piano, for example, the high note at the top end has a frequency of 4186. That is, it vibrates at 4186 times per second. Whereas the low note at the bottom end has a frequency of 27.5. Most differences in pitch are not so extreme. Two adjacent notes on the piano might have frequencies of 185 and 196. The difference in the number of vibrations per second is only 11, but we can still hear a clear difference in pitch. Most of us can hear differences in pitch much smaller than this, as in an out-of-tune guitar, and some musicians can detect a difference of only 1 vibration per second. When it came on to writing music and communicating their intentions, composers of the Western music era would write down notes or notate their music. Notes are written down on a staff, plural, staves. Each staff has 5 lines. Notes are placed on any of the 5 lines and 4 spaces. The pitch is indicated by the round or oval part of the note, not by the stem. In general, the higher a note appears on the staff, the higher it sounds. We'll take a look at this example of the notation "Take me out to the ball game," paying attention only to how high or how low the note appears on the staff. You can see that the placement of the notes gives a very clear picture of which notes are higher and which notes are lower. The symbol at the end of the staff is called a clef. A staff is not useful until it has a clef. One of 2 clefs is normally used: the treble clef, as in our ball game example, or the bass clef. High pitches are notated in the treble clef and low pitches are notated in the bass clef. Clef is the French word for key, and the clef is the key to which notes are written where. In the treble clef, the central spiral encircles the line that represents the note G on the staff. The fact that the treble clef is derived from a fancy way of writing G and is sometimes called the G clef. The 2 notes in the bass clef or F clef straddle the line representing the note F on the staff, and here the clef is made up of a stylized F. In speech or in writing, the notes of music are referred to by letter names. The first 7 letters of the alphabet are used: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. To indicate more notes, we simply use these letters over again: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and so on. In the following example, you will see 2 notes, E and A. To find the names of the notes on the upper staff, you count either up or down from G, that is designated by the treble clef. Remember to count lines and spaces also. The same applies to the bass clef. Simply count up or down from F. You will notice that the same name can be used for 2 entirely different pitches. We had an A on the treble staff, but we also used the letter A for one of the notes on the bass staff. These 2 notes are an octave, or in other words, 8 notes apart. Notes that are an octave apart sound similar because they have multiples of the same frequency. The A at the top of the bass staff has a frequency of 220, and the A in the middle of the treble staff has a frequency of twice 220 or 440 because it is an octave higher. Try playing these notes on the piano, or just try singing any 2 notes that are an octave apart. the first two notes of Somewhere Over the Rainbow or The Ball Game, for example. The range of notes covered in music is very wide, so each letter name is used many times. The piano, for example, covers more than 7 octaves. In fact, there are instruments that can play even lower than the piano, and some that can play even higher. To notate these notes on the staff, or in fact, any notes that lie above or below the staff, various methods are used. One of the most common is the ledger line. The ledger lines for Old MacDonald and E-I-E-I-O are used to indicate notes that are too high to be marked on the staff itself. Similarly, notes that lie too low can be placed on the ledger lines below the staff. By counting up from the topmost staff line A, you can see that Old is sung on a C. Piano music is usually written with two staves, treble and bass together, one for the right hand and one for the left. When these two staves are put together, they are called a grand staff. The note that lies on a single ledger line in the middle of the grand staff is called middle C. This is the C you just saw in Old MacDonald Had a Farm. So far, we have been dealing only with the white keys on the piano keyboard. The notation of the black keys is a little more complex. These notes are also put on the lines and spaces of the staff, but they are either preceded by a sharp sign or a flat sign to indicate that they are different from the white notes at the same place on the staff. Here is an example. These sharps or flat signs indicate that the note is raised, sharped, or lowered, flattened. The black key that lies between C and D on a piano can be called either a C sharp or a D flat. It lies a half step above C and a half step below D. Now, to understand the difference between a whole step and a half step, we will look briefly at the C major scale. A scale is an ascending or descending group of notes. If you play all the white notes on the piano going up from middle C to the C above it, you've just created a scale, the scale of C major. The C major scale is made up of a series of half steps and whole steps. A half step is the distance between two consecutive keys of either color. The half steps in the C major scale then are those from E to F and from B to C, those with no intervening keys. A whole step is made up of two half steps, and so the whole steps in the scale are those that straddle black keys. For example, from C to D or from A to B. If this video has helped you in any way, please remember to hit the like button, remember to share and leave a comment, and until then, remain musical.